Workplace bullying exists for one reason and one reason only. Are you ready? Here we go. Let's do this. 2 words: weak leadership. Need I say more? Whenever people who don't know very much about workplace bullying talk about workplace bullying as a form of narcissistic abuse, it's all about narcissistic bosses, narcissistic bosses, narcissistic bosses. Yes, workplace bullying is a form of narcissistic abuse, so workplace bullies are narcissists, or at the very least have narcissistic tendencies, above all a lack of boundaries and a lack of empathy. However, I find in almost 3 decades of being bullied in the workplace, in my experience, the bosses are the least likely people in the place to be bullies. Don't get me wrong, it's important to make a distinction between types of organization. A lot of these entrepreneurs, these sole proprietors, or worse, franchise owners, are spectacularly horrible people, just truly awful human beings who have to go into business for themselves because no one can stand to sit in the same room with them. You would think that people who go into business for themselves are past victims of workplace bullying who escaped toxic work environments with a promise to themselves never to treat their own employees the way that they were treated. Unfortunately, that's just not the case. The meek, codependent empath is much more likely to just slog it out in the trenches and just tolerate and endure the abuse for as long as she possibly can. In my experience, entrepreneurship attracts some of the worst narcissists on the planet. But in companies with established organization, structure, and hierarchy, it is not the bosses who are doing the bullying. It's the underlings, the subordinates, the employees who engage in this internecine, immature, infantile, juvenile, adult version of sibling rivalry, because workplace bullies are narcissists who drag all of their emotional nonsense into the workplace, which they turn into a forum for resolving all of their unhealed childhood trauma and wounding. Yes, bosses can be narcissists and they can be bullies, but in an organization, I find that they are not, because of one word: power. At the very least, in a workplace bullying environment, the bosses feel as though they have some power because of their titles. It is a false power because narcissists do not understand what real power is. But we all know how narcissists feel about power. They live for it. So the bosses in a workplace bullying environment are not likely to be bullies. What they really are is enablers. In my essay on workplace bullying, I described numerous instances when I was bullied using one of the numerous workplace bullying techniques that I have identified, ranging from unfair criticism and passive-aggressive insults to dirty looks and nose-holding in the immediate presence of supervisors who stood passively by, did and said absolutely nothing, as though they were paralyzed or frozen, and instead just stared at me as if in expectation of some kind of response. If you are a target of workplace bullying, that is the best that you'll ever get. Workplace bullying leaders are weak. Why are they so weak? Well, their first weakness is their emotional illiteracy. Teal Swan has said we are living in the emotional dark ages. The leaders in a workplace bullying environment do not do anything about the bullying because they can't. They don't have the tools. If workplace bullying is sibling rivalry, then the leaders in a workplace bullying environment are like bad parents who stand idly by, do and say nothing, and allow their children to be bullied, or worse, be bullies, because they don't know what else to do about it. Worst case scenario, they allow bullying among their children because they think that bullying toughens them up and builds character. Bullying does not build character. Bullying destroys lives. Another way that workplace bullying leaders are weak is they are stage 5 codependent enablers who have fallen for the narcissistic sob story. Workplace bullies as narcissists love to run around the workplace all day, every day, whipping out that sob story. Sometimes you have to hear it within minutes of meeting them. It's a defense, like, don't mess with me. And it's always one of the big three. Are you ready? Here we go. Let's do this. I'm a single parent. I'm taking care of an aging parent, or I'm putting myself through school. Sometimes gangs all here. And the biggest sob story that workplace bullies love to tell is how hard they are working and how stressed out they are about how hard they are working. How do we know that narcissists work hard? Oh, that's because they tell us all the time that they work hard, because they don't know how to work smart. They work hard, not smart. And if you listen closely to that one, it's not that they're working hard, it's that they're working harder than the target, namely you. If you are a non-narcissist, non-bully, and decent, sane, normal human being, you know better than to complain about the work that you do, but instead just to do it until it gets done. Mars and Capricorn style, like the little goat climbing up the mountain, putting one foot in front of the other. Today I write a sentence, the next day I write a paragraph, the day after that I can write a whole page. And the leaders in a workplace bullying environment have fallen for the narcissistic sob story. For years, I wondered why narcissistic workplace bullies were so consistently enabled across the board. I used to think it was because people were afraid of them, because that's exactly what bullies want. Narcissists want to instill fear in everyone because they are not capable of inspiring love in anyone. But it's not fear, it's pity. The leaders in a workplace bullying environment have fallen for the narcissistic sob story, and now they just feel sorry for the bullies. The leaders in a workplace bullying environment may tell themselves that they want to be fair, but what they really are is just weak. Fairness is only fair when there are two equal sides. There is nothing fair about bullying. There's just bullying. Workplace bullying bosses are like old school journalists who back in the day would include quotes in their stories from climate change deniers when writing about climate change, even though pretty much every ethical scientist on the planet at this point universally agrees that climate change is real and that it is caused by human activity. When it comes to any form of abuse, there are not two sides to the story. There is just abuse. I have not been averse to using profanity on this channel, but there are some words for workplace bullying bosses that even I will not use here. They are spineless, gutless wimps who need huevos. If they had 1 ounce of integrity, morals, ethics, or values, they would not try to be fair and balanced and hear out both sides to the story. Instead, they would use the only response to bullying that anyone is allowed, and that is to tell the bullies to take several seats. Workplace bullying bosses not only can't deal with the bullying, they don't want to. Their response to the bullying is pretty much the same as just about everyone's response to any report of any form of narcissistic abuse, and that is one of indifference or worse, disbelief. Read the comments on the news articles about the Me Too movement or any reports from victims who have bravely come forward, and then brace yourself for the hatred and the vitriol. And I think there's a reason for that, and I think that it goes beyond mere emotional illiteracy. Something here has been triggered. It is a painful reminder of their own unhealed, unresolved abuse and trauma. It's like, I was abused, no one listened to me, and no one believed me. So I'm not going to listen to you, and I'm not going to believe you either. Workplace bullying bosses are turning a blind eye and sticking their heads in the sand, and they might be doing it with their own addictions. I come from a long line of alcoholic bosses. It's obvious who's addicted to food, cigarettes, and or alcohol. Coming back from a 3-beer lunch, and you could strike a match in the fumes. When it comes to the mental illnesses and the addictions of a workplace bullying environment, I'll go ahead and take bipolar disorder with a side of alcoholism for 10, Alex. And the bosses are no exception. You cannot expect a lot of oversight from bosses like that. Again, in my experience, the leaders in a workplace bullying environment are the least likely to participate in the bullying. Instead, they enable it. But when they do join in the bullying, they are no longer mere codependents. They are now the flying monkeys, the little minions of all the narcissistic workplace bullies at the bottom, and they have fallen for the narcissistic smear campaign. The leaders in a workplace bullying environment join in the bullying because they want to be one of the cool kids. One of my theories about workplace bullying is that workplace bullies never act alone. There is no such thing as mobbing because all workplace bullying is mobbing. Workplace bullies are gangbangers. They're loud, and the squeaky wheel gets the grease. They look like the in crowd. A workplace bullying environment may be nothing more than one big high school. And weak leaders with no integrity may be no exception. At the very least, in the end, though they may not participate in the bullying, if they are bystanders to workplace bullying, the leaders in a workplace bullying environment may reveal themselves as the covert narcissist that they really were all along and enjoy watching what happens to you and enjoy carrying out the abuse. So that's a summary of a point I want to make about weak leadership as a cause of workplace bullying. If you'd like to read more, I've written an essay on workplace bullying. It's on my website. I include that information in the description. The reason I create this video series is to establish a forum where targets of workplace bullying can share their stories and experiences in a kind of support group. So you can know, number one, you're not crazy. Workplace bullying is real and your feelings are perfectly valid and justified. And number two, you're not alone. Unfortunately, countless others have experienced the same thing. So I look forward to reading your comments and I'll try to respond. Take care.